All right, it is 6:30, so I will call to order a meeting of the Oregon School District Board of Education. It is Monday, February 26th, 2024, and we are in the OSD Innovation Center at Oregon High School. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bijak? Here. Dr. Bush? Here. Ms. Garrison? Dr. Lakuta? Here. Mr. Pankratz? Present. Ms. Wright? Here. Ms. Flanagan?
Present. Board does have a quorum. I do have from Ms. Heights that this meeting has been duly noticed, so we are good there. On the agenda this evening are our normal consent calendar. We do have 2 students here for the student report, and then we do have actually 2 public hearings tonight as part of this meeting, and then the board will go into closed session after the close of the regular meeting. So that is our agenda for tonight, so I will entertain a motion to approve that agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We have an agenda for tonight. Next up is the consent calendar. And so we do have some field trips that I think the board had a chance to look at in that consent calendar. And then we do have a retirement. Peggy Koenig is retiring in June after 24 years, another Wood Knoll Advanced Learning teacher. So we want to thank Peggy for all of her work in this district and wish her well in her retirement in June. And then we do have the following donations that I will read. They are all from the Draper family, $350 from Irene, $400 from Carla, and $250 from Dwayne. That's all for the Draper Family Scholarship. So we do extend our appreciation to the Drapers for their longtime support of that family scholarship. Okay, so that is the consent calendar. So I will entertain a motion to approve that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 6-0. Moving on to B, information items. Number 1 is public comment. Do we have anyone here for the public comment portion of this meeting? All right, anyone here for public comment? And then we do have no one registered, correct, just to make sure? Okay, moving on to OEA report. Is anyone here from the OEA for that report? Okay.
Here, no statement.
Okay, thank you. So no statement. So next up is the student report. So Wesley and Sean, if you want to turn on your microphone, and then the floor is yours.
Hello. Our music department has been preparing for the spring concert season, and last week they performed our musical Big Fish on February 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Many music students are preparing for the Soul and Ensemble Festival, which will take place in March. OMS is starting auditions for its musical Mary Poppins Jr. this week.
And our winter sports have also been doing very well. Girls basketball were the conference champions and continued their win streak this week. However, boys hockey lost their sectional finals to St. Mary's Springs. OHS wrestling sent 4 wrestlers to state: Evan Fahey, Cade Auberg, Logan Steffen, and Tegan Simpson. Cade placed 3rd and is the first person to place at state for Oregon since the 2013-2014 season. Finally, Spencer Slutka earned a 2nd place in the 50-yard freestyle and a 3rd place in the 100-yard freestyle at the state this past Saturday. Spring sports are starting soon and are hoping to continue their successful season from last year.
Panthervision received an award from the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association for their excellence in a student-produced newscast. They were recognized at Lambeau Field this past Saturday on February 24th. There will also be a career fair for students coming up in a few weeks on March 14th.
Skills USA visited UW Stout last Thursday and Friday, February 22nd and 23rd, for its 2-day regional, which is the largest competition of the year before state. Morgan Spindler earned in related technical math a gold, and as well as urban research alongside Jackson Walsh earned another gold. Miles Ertl won silver in electronic technology, and Toshi Sai won gold in additive manufacturing.
Earlier today, Oregon competed at the regional Math 24 competition, hosted by the Greater Dane County Advanced Learners Network in Madison. Advanced math students from grades 4 through 8 competed, and numerous Oregon students medaled.
And then finally, last week, Thursday, Brookline Elementary hosted a free dinner and a book. There were a dozen guest readers that families could listen to after eating. Every student was given a free book, pizza, and fruit, as well as a dessert. Around 500 people attended the event.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. We really appreciate you being here, and thank you for that update. Okay, 4 for information items is a teaching and learning update about Skills USA.
That has been rescheduled.
Okay, so we will move on from that. So next up is we will move into the public hearing and action item portion of the agenda. So we have a specific kind of script that we need to follow for that, so we will start that now. All right, as chair of this public hearing on reorganization pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 117.12, I hereby call this meeting to order. I am Krista Flanagan, President of the Oregon School Board, and let the record indicate that the board agenda which sets forth the date of this hearing also contained my role as chair tonight. We have before the board a petition to detach from the Stoughton Area School District and attach to the Oregon Area School District. First thing to do is appoint a secretary, so I recommend that Ms. Height serves as the secretary for this hearing. So I will entertain a motion to this effect. Is there a second? All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 7-0. Katie, you are our secretary. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda for the public hearing is introduction of Board of Education members. So I will go around the room and ask everyone to just say your name and introduce yourself. Mary, we'll start with you.
Mary Lakuta?
Heather Garrison.
Troy Pankratz.
Anna Bijak.
Kayla Bush.
Great, thank you. Unless there is an objection from the floor, the notice of hearing will not be read by the clerk, and seeing as no objection, I will move that to that statutory criteria. So I guess I should have looked first to see if there was any objection. But hearing none, we'll move forward. Okay, so now we'll go through the statutory basis for making a decision. The school board shall consider and weigh the following factors as they affect the educational welfare of all the children of the school district affected by the proposed detachment pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 117.15 and may consider other appropriate factors. A, the geographical and topographical characteristics of the affected school district, including the estimated travel time to and from school for pupils in the school districts. B, the educational needs of all children residing in the affected school districts, the educational programs currently offered by each affected school district, and the ability and commitment of each school district to meet those needs and continue to offer those educational programs. C, if the territory is proposed to be detached from one school district and attached to the adjoining school district, whether the proposed detachment will have any adverse effect on the programs currently offered by the school district from which the territory is proposed to be detached, including both curricular and extracurricular aspects of the program. D, the testimony of the written statements filed by the residents of the affected districts. E, the estimated fiscal impact of the proposed reorganization of the affected school districts, including the effect of the apportionment of assets and liabilities. F, whether the proposed reorganization will make any part of the school district's territory non-contiguous. G, the socioeconomic level and racial composition of the pupils who reside or will reside in territory proposed to be detached from one school district and attached to an adjoining school district in territory proposed to be included in a new school district under Statute 117.105, or in school districts proposed to be consolidated or in a school district proposed to be dissolved. The proportion of the pupils who reside in such territory who are children at risk, as defined under Statute 118.1531A, and the effect that the pupils described in this paragraph will have on the present and future socioeconomic level and racial composition of the affected school districts, and on the proportion of the affected school districts' enrollments that will be children at risk. 6, overview of the petition. At this time, I will ask the superintendent, Dr. Leslie Bergstrom, to present an overview of the petition to provide a common background of developments and issues for the school board and those present at this meeting. Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. This evening, Travis and Brittany Leeser, who reside at 4375 Old Stone Road, which is an Oregon address, but is attached to the Stoughton Area School District. They are asking to detach from the Stoughton School District and attach their property to the Oregon School District. And in 24-25, they will have a little one entering 4K, and I believe that she is here this evening even to be present for the proceedings.
Okay, thank you. So before taking testimony, I'd like to review the rules applicable to this hearing. This is an informal hearing, but we will record all of the information presented. Each person offering information will come to the microphone, which is right up there, and please state your name, address, and school district, and speak distinctly so that we can be sure that your information is recorded. The procedure is to hear from the proponents of the petition and the opponents of the petition. The proponents, those people asking the school board to transfer the territory, will be heard first. Following the proponents, the opponents of the petition, those people who do not want the territory transferred, will be heard. Following the initial presentation by the proponents and the opponents, there will be a short time allotted for rebuttal and/or summation by both sides in the same order as before. So, first up is the proponents of the petition. So if you want to come up to the microphone, and then you can turn it on. And then we just need your name and address and school district before you read your statement, please.
Is it working?
Yes.
Hey, good afternoon. My name is Travis Leeser. I reside at 4375 Old Stone Road, and I'm currently in the Stoughton School District. So if you look at the maps that I provided, we are kind of on an island down, we're 7 miles or 7 minutes as the crow flies from Oregon School District, and we're 17 minutes from the Stoughton School District. So that's one of the big things. We both work northwest of Madison. So going northwest would be obviously ideal. The next big thing that we learned recently is that in Stoughton, all of first off, Stoughton school buses do not come as far as my property. So Oregon does, Stoughton does not. In the event that she had to go to Stoughton, she would have to be on a bus with all high schoolers or high schoolers and a mix of everybody. Versus if she were to go to Oregon, she would be on a school bus directly that goes to Brooklyn Elementary. So I really don't want my 4-year-old on a bus with a bunch of high schoolers. No offense to you guys, but I just feel more comfortable being at that, and that's the biggest concern that we have is our child's safety, and in the event that she misses school bus, which way we have to go, right? It's much more convenient for us to go 7 miles on our way to work than 17 miles out of the way. Any questions from you guys? Also, I appreciate you guys all serving on the board. I serve on a board myself in the township, and I know it's a lot of time and away from family, so I appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Okay, is there any other proponents of the petition that would like to speak? Okay, we will move on to opponents of the petition. Are there any opponents of this petition that would like to speak? Okay. Since we don't have that, we will not go to rebuttal, so we'll move into the closing formal presentation. So at this time, I will close the public presentation on this position and open the school board deliberations. The only information presented hereafter will be on the request of the school board members concerning the information received by them or brought out in this meeting. So are there any questions or information that the board member would like answered or clarified at this point in time? Go ahead, Mary.
I was hoping for a point of clarification. So I know the statutory basis includes quite a few points. And I'm wondering if, for example, any single point can eliminate the possibility of consideration.
So you do take all of the factors together. One does not have more weight than another. Does that help answer your question?
There we go. But if one, if one of the points doesn't meet, so for example, and this goes back to another hearing that we had several years ago. If the proposed reorganization creates this non-contiguous area, does that preclude us from being able to vote for? Do you understand my question? I do.
It doesn't preclude you from voting, but I would say it would be highly unlikely that it would be recognized to make an island, right? That DPI really weighs heavily on being contiguous.
Right. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Troy.
Just to follow up on that, Ms. Jonan, I mean, if we were to vote yes and as a board, vote to approve this, we could do so even though there would be the potential to create that island. But what you're saying is that DPI is unlikely to approve that.
Yes, I mean, I have not seen them do that before, but it's something, if you weigh the factors and you feel supportive, you are welcome to vote in favor. And one thing that districts do look at is that if property attaches to our district, then that is more property value. That would have a minimal budget impact, but there is an impact.
Go ahead, Heather, and then Anna.
I'm not great at maps, so I just need a little help here. The reason that it would be, what I'm looking at is the dark shaded stuff is the Oregon School District and the white is Stoughton. And the reason that it's an island is because there are those two other properties in this, or I guess I'm not, yeah, what makes this an island?
Yeah, I would love to if I'm still on here. So if you look at my map here, I have a color coded one. I'm not sure if you guys do or not. So basically, black is you guys, and the white would be Stoughton, right? Everything that is currently you guys in that area, which would be black on yours, has already done just what we're doing. I actually contacted directly to the east of where our chunk is, that finger that kind of goes back north into theirs. They did the exact same thing we're doing 20 years ago. My opinion, I can't speak to this wholeheartedly, right, but every other property around mine, so there's one directly to the west, the one to the southwest, those two parcels that are kind of zigzag, they're actually one parcel. It's one property. And then the property directly to the east and to the north, actually, they're all retired couples, right? So they don't have kids that they care about that are going to school. That's the thing. Everyone else around here, like, so the property directly to the east, that's you guys, and then there's 3 parcels down. That parcel, also every one of those parcels that are you guys have kids. They've done the exact same thing. I actually just talked to one of my neighbors yesterday about it to see, like, hey, what's the process with this? I fully expect, I can't vouch for this, and I know you can't take this into consideration, but the property directly east of me that's very long and skinny just got sold to a young gentleman that is actually the son of the property that is in you guys directly east of him. I fully expect very soon that he and his wife will be having a kid, and they'll be doing the exact same thing that I am. So to your point of contiguous, sooner or later, it could potentially not be, I guess. For the majority of the reason that the rest of it's already Stoughton is because they're just all retired. They're all retired homesteads that don't have any really care in it, I guess. Obviously, I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that obviously Oregon's one of the most sought after schools in the area. I'm looking at this and saying, we also open enrolled her. We applied for open enrollment too. Realistically speaking, it would be more advantageous for me to stay in Stoughton School District and just open enroll her and hope that she gets an open enrollment, because my mill rate for Stoughton is less than Oregon. But, right, if my daughter gets open enrollment and then potentially down the road we have another child, I want them to go to the same school. I understand that it's looked in favor of if they have that, but there's a potential, right, that they could potentially be split. So, realistically speaking, I'm spending a bunch of money here to try to get attached to this Oregon School District, basically to make sure my kids go to the same school. In full disclosure, Stoughton rejected the petition last week. I would have to appeal it, which cost me $750 from DPI, and from what you're telling me is the chances of DPI approving this are very little. That doesn't really help my feelings at all, but it is what it is. I'm looking at this strategically more on the common sense basis than anything, and yeah. So I appreciate your input though, because that was one of the questions that I was going to ask was, what is the likelihood, or have you guys seen any recently that have been rejected or approved from DPI, if in the event that you guys decided to accept her in, or accept the property for that fact? So
Gina, go ahead if you'd like to speak to that.
Yeah, I think that it's a barrier that you have to overcome, but I don't want to discourage you from doing that because it seems like that's a reasonable goal to have.
It is a pretty interesting little map when you look at the next page of the fingers of.
it's
a
pretty
little,
interesting. When we bought this property,
looks like gerrymandering.
When we bought this property, I would have never thought in a million years that I never even looked into the whole school district thing, right? But I was when we started looking into it, and I do a lot of stuff with zoning and stuff. That's my expertise, right? So coincidentally, I was looking at my tax bills. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is Stoughton, and it was then I got to looking. Somehow I found this map through Dane County Zoning actually gave me this map, I believe. But yeah, it's a very interesting parcel. I would have thought that they would have split this by either a land feature via road or something differently, but it's a jigsaw puzzle.
So are the fingers there Stoughton, or is that Evansville?
That is Stoughton.
Okay, so all
everything
this.
that you're seeing on this is either Stoughton or Oregon.
Okay.
There's no other school
right.
district in that.
Okay. Any other, go ahead, let's go Anna, Caleb, and then back to Mary.
Yeah, so you spoke to this, but I guess I want to maybe ask another follow-up question related to the adjacent properties. I understand that you've got maybe some neighbors who don't have young kids and aren't looking to switch school districts. But have you talked with them about whether they would be willing to sign on and then allow for that continuous boundary? And I just bring it up because I think that I'm in support of you joining our school district. That would be lovely. I'm just wondering if there's an opportunity to improve the case there.
So if you're looking at this map currently, if you're looking at the one that's zoomed in on where my property is, so the property directly to the north, that's yellow, and that's actually split in half. So there's one that's in Oregon and one that's in Stoughton. That's actually one parcel. That part that's in Stoughton is all wooded. And then directly northeast of that, all across Old Stone Road, is all like 800 acres of public. That goes into it goes into the Anthony branch. So basically everything northeast is irrelevant because it's all wetland. Yeah. So the only two properties that there are other than me is there's the property directly to the west, which is a rental of a plumber, and then the one to the east, just like in the last 2 to 3 months, got bought by Keenan Pulse. That would be the one that I could go to and say, hey, you're 25 years old, you're not thinking about a kid, but in the event, can we do this together? The problem with that, though, is at this point in the game, I have to have my appeal in by the end of next week. So my timing doesn't necessarily work out. So really there's only 2 parcels there. There's only 3 parcels on the south side of the road. I know there's 4 different parcels you see, but there's actually only 3 other homesteads other than mine. And yeah, so I could go to Keenan and ask him to do the same thing. But again, we would have had to do them at the same time. I could potentially do it in the future if I really deem necessary, but at that point, either I'm going to know she's open enrolled or not, right? So, I mean, shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I would have known 6 months ago that this is what we needed to do, right? I probably would have said something. But again, he hadn't owned the property at that time either. He just recently bought it, so. Yeah, it's a very weird map it's deceiving because of all that stuff to the northeast is all wetland and it's never going to be developed. So we're really, if you look at it like that, we are the finger in Stoughton's district, not the other way around. And I probably should have pointed that out to Stoughton, but I didn't really think of it until now. So.
All right, Caleb.
So I don't really have a question. I just wanted to, I think in looking at the map and listening to what you're saying, and also I think speaking to the concerns that have been raised about creating an island, which I think there's some kind of strange irony about concerns with islands in school districts, but in legislative districts it hasn't been an issue until this year. But anyway, that's another issue. I just wanted to, literally what you're saying, if you look at the map, if you were any other property, you would be adjacent to our district. I mean, literally, if you were across the street, if you were to the east, to the west. So it just happens to be that, and I don't know what the scale is, but you're pretty darn close.
Correct.
Within a few, maybe, 100 feet, perhaps, of
100 feet.
Being 200 feet.
I wish that I could give you a map that shows development rights on this, because if you would actually see that, where there's actually development rights, where I'm trying to go with this is I understand that if there was 40 development rights in that wetland, that there's a potential that there's 40 houses going in, right? But there's 0 because it's all wetland. Realistically, at that point, I am a pod. There's 3 pods that are all encased in pink, which would be you guys. I guess that's going to be my get-go when I go to DPI and say,
Owner
whoa,
occupied.
I mean, realistically, you're never going to touch that property because it's owned by the DNR. They're never going to give it up. But yes, I mean, we're 200 feet from your guys' school district boundary.
So I guess I'm empathetic to your case, I think, and also I think your reasoning for doing what you're doing is also pretty sound. And the point about mill rates is also a good one. You're doing all of this for the right reasons, which means, for me, I think I'm willing to support it. I think given the rule of law, I have a feeling, right, that their DPI might be pushing back, but I guess that's also, you can, I think, make a very good case, given what you've said, right, that you could probably appeal and see if they listen to your appeal, because it's a pretty unique circumstance.
Yeah, I think when I do appeal, I'm going to go back and draw a new map that says, okay, this boundary is completely out of the picture because you can't touch it, and then show them like, okay, you're getting. I mean it's kind of frustrating to me, and I understand the school district and I understand politics, right? But that it boils down to, in my opinion, I don't want to say it's success of a child, but the experience that a child goes through is all based on money in the end scheme of things, right? Who gets the tax dollars? That's pretty frustrating to me. I just don't think that should be right, that should be taken into consideration. But it is what it is. That's why we're here, right? So.
All right, Mary, go ahead, Gina, first, and then we'll have one more question, and I think we can move on.
So I just want to have a point of order because I want to make sure that it's clear in the record where the wetlands are and that people understand that, because, and also when things go to DPI, they may not let you introduce new evidence. And since it came up tonight, I don't know if you want to draw on yours and give that to us, or if you just want to walk us through and we can mark it.
Sure,
but I just want to make sure it's clear from the minutes of where the wetlands are that can't be developed.
Yes, thank you for that clarification, Ms. Jonan.
So basically, if you look at a map, all of this parcel, this direction, is all owned by the DNR, and a large majority of this parcel, these two parcels right here, are actually one parcel. The owner owns both of them. They're just split by property lines, right? But a large majority of that secondary parcel that's in Stoughton is wetland, so it won't be developed anyways. Right. And then that would create this.
And so my question, I know you have a question, Mary, go ahead and then I'll go. I was just going to say, how does DPI define that so narrow or so broadly, or is there a narrow definition in terms of what is what is owner, available to be owned and occupied?
They just look at the statutory criteria.
Yeah.
But it would be a factor that they would consider. I just want to make sure that our record's clear. So I think we'll make another exhibit. Are you okay if we have a copy of that?
Absolutely.
As another exhibit? And then
Can I submit one and add like a better drawing than just my chicken scratch, or do you want this?
we'll take that one.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, Mary, last question.
So just another quick question for you. Just south of your property, there's this kind of odd U shape, and what is that?
Where are you
property?
talking?
Yeah, sorry. So here?
So
there?
if you look at this property here that you're talking is a weird U shape, is connected with this one. This is the parcels are based off of zoning districts, right? So this parcel they have in farm preservation, so they pay less taxes. This is where the actual homestead is. The homestead is right there.
Okay.
On that parcel, so they're connected.
When you say that parcel, the long rectangle parcel, just so our recording is clear.
So the long rectangle parcel to the east is its own standalone parcel.
No, the long rectangle underneath.
Correct. The long rectangle parcel to the southwest is connected with the U-shaped parcel. That's parcel that's the homestead. The only other parcels that there are with homesteads are the square directly west and the long part directly east.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
So my question actually was essentially the same as Anna around whether there are abutting properties that you could apply together as.
Okay. Go ahead, Leslie.
So you mentioned that the bus from Oregon comes by your house?
Correct.
Does it come down Old Stone Road?
Correct. They come down Old Stage and then turn onto Old Stone.
Okay, so the bus goes directly past your house?
Correct. And Stoughton's does not.
And Stoughton doesn't come anywhere near that
Correct.
area? Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we will move to Dr. Bergstrom, who will just review the two options available to us tonight.
Well, there really are only two options. So, first, we could either grant the request for the transfer of territory as described in the petition, and that means that the territory, we would be saying that we are okay with the detachment from Stoughton and the attachment to Oregon. Or, we deny the request for the transfer of the territory as described in the petition, and that means that the territory would remain in the Oregon area, or excuse me, Stoughton Area School District.
Okay, so the two options are to grant a detachment from Stoughton, Oregon, or deny the detachment from Stoughton, Oregon. So I will entertain a motion. Go ahead, Heather.
I'll make a motion to approve approve the grant to detach from Stoughton and attach to Oregon.
Okay, that motion is on the floor. Is there a second? I would second. All right, any further discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none. Katie, can we do a roll call or do we need to do ballot? Okay. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Can I just confirm that you meant motion number 1 in the agenda item?
Yes, she did.
Thank you.
Well, she's got to say she did. I'm just reading your mind. I don't mean to speak for you, Heather. I'm sorry.
I guess I did.
Okay. Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuda? Yes. Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. You have been granted a petition by this board to go forth and try and get an attachment. Okay. Okay, we will now move on to, and so do we need to approve the resolution? Okay, so then in your packets is a resolution that then abides by that motion. And so if someone would like to make a motion to approve that resolution that supports that motion.
I will make a motion to approve the public hearing for Alfred School District boundary brought to us by Travis and Bridget.
All right, is there a second to that resolution motion?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the resolution? Okay, hearing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Dr. Lakuda? Yes. Dr. Bush?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Ms. Garrison?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0, so that resolution is also passed. Okay, we will move on to the second public hearing. Okay, so we'll do a whole new shebang, so you get to listen to me read some more. All right, as chair of this public hearing on reorganization pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 117.12, I hereby call this meeting to order. I am Krista Flanagan, president of the Oregon School Board, and let the record indicate that the board agenda which set forth the date of this hearing also contained my role as chair tonight. We have before the board a petition to, that's not the right one. Hold on. I think I printed out the same one. Sorry. All right. We have a petition before the board to detach from the Oregon School District to the Evansville Community School District. First thing we need to do is appoint a secretary. So I recommend that Ms. Katie Heights serves as secretary for this hearing. So I will entertain a motion to that effect. All right. Is there a second? All right. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So Katie, you are again the secretary. Thank you so much. All right. We will need to introduce the board members again for this second hearing. So I will again start with Mary.
Troy Pankratz.
Anna Bijak?
Caleb Bush.
Leslie Wright.
All right, thank you. Unless there is an objection from the floor, seeing none, the notice of hearing will not be read by the clerk. So now we will move on to the statutory criteria. So First, the school board shall consider and weigh the following factors as they affect the educational welfare of all the children of the school district affected by the proposed detachment pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 117.15 and may consider other appropriate factors. A, the geographical and topographical characteristics of the affected school district, including the estimated travel time to and from school for pupils in the school districts. B, the educational needs of all children residing in the affected school districts, the educational programs currently offered by each affected school district, and the ability and commitment of each school district to meet those needs and continue to offer those educational programs. C, if the territory is proposed to be detached from one school district and attached to the adjoining school district, whether the proposed detachment will have any adverse effect on the programs currently offered by the school district from which the territory is proposed to be detached, including both curricular and extracurricular aspects of that program. D, the testimony of the written statements filed by the residents of the affected school districts. E, the estimated fiscal effect of the proposed reorganization of the affected school districts, including the effect of the apportionment on assets and liabilities. F, whether proposed reorganization will make any part of the school district's territory non-contiguous. G, the socioeconomic level and racial composition of the pupils who reside or will reside in territory proposed to be detached from one school district and attached to an adjoining school district, in territory proposed to be included in a new school district under statute 117.105, or in school districts proposed to be consolidated, or in a school district proposed to be dissolved. The proportion of pupils who reside in such territory who are children at risk, as defined under statute 118.153(1)A. And the effect that the pupils described in this paragraph will have on the present and future socioeconomic level and racial composition of the affected school districts and on the proportion of the affected school districts' enrollments that will be children at risk. So 6, overview of the petition. So at this time, I'll again ask Dr. Bergstrom to present an overview of this petition to provide a common background of developments and issues for the school board and for those present at this meeting. So Dr. Bergstrom, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Axel and Stacy Anderson, who currently reside at 409 Lincoln, which is in Evansville, Wisconsin, are requesting that their property that is at 17701 West Dreamview Court be detached from the Oregon School District and attached to Evansville. So this is not the property it appears that they currently reside at. It is property owned by them. And hopefully they will be here to be able to answer some questions.
Okay, before taking testimony, I'd like to review the rules applicable to this hearing. This is an informal hearing, but we will record all of the information presented. Each person offering information will come to the microphone. Please state your name, address, and school district and speak distinctly so that we can be sure that your information is recorded. The procedure is to hear from the proponents and the opponents of the petition. The proponents, those people asking the school board to transfer the territory, will be heard first. Following the proponents, the opponents of the petition, those people who do not want the territory transferred, will be heard. Following the initial presentation by the proponents and the opponents, there will be a short time allotted for rebuttal and/or summation by both sides in the same order as before. So we will start with the proponents of the petition. So is there anyone here to speak? Go ahead if you want to come up and turn on the microphone, and then just give your name, address, and school district before your comments, please. I found it.
Hi there, my name is Axel Anderson. Sorry if I seem a little hoarse. I lost my voice a week ago and it hasn't quite came back yet. So yeah, we do not live currently in the at the stated property. We live in Evansville, about a block away from the elementary school. But eventually, probably 5-ish years from now, we're going to build a house on this property. We built a shed already out there, working on a driveway, stuff like that. So do you guys have a map of it, or you do? Okay. So there's the bigger parcel that we own, and then there's the little 2-acre parcel. So the little 2-acre parcel is currently in the Oregon School District, and the big parcel, where the house and all the other infrastructure is going, is currently in the Evansville. So, yeah, that's why we want to get a change. I believe they're going to go to Evansville anyways, because all of our, or would we have the chance to open and roll since we're, the driveway comes out in Oregon? I'm not real sure, but we would like to just change it to Evansville. That way we know for sure that that's where they're going. They'll have already started school at that point, and they'll be going to Evansville because we live, like I say, about a block away. We were there tonight playing on the playground, so Is there any questions?
Okay, we'll move into question portion
Oh,
after we have the
sorry.
opponents. That's okay, just stay there, it's fine. Do we have any opponents of the petition here to speak? Okay, seeing none, we will not have to have the rebuttal portion, so we will move on to, at this time, I will close the public presentation on this position and open the school board deliberations. The only information presented hereafter will be on the request of the school board members concerning the information received by them or brought out in this meeting. So are there any questions or information that any board member would like answered or clarified? We'll start with you, Anna.
Yeah, so question for you as far as you're planning to build on the larger parcel?
That's right, yep.
So are you preparing a CSM to combine the parcels, or tell me more about the relationship between the 2-acre, it's in the Oregon School District, and the larger parcel that you own and plan to put a home on? Because if that's in the Evansville School District, wouldn't that mean if that's your address and you're living there that you would continue to be in the Evansville School District?
See, and they could, because their hearing was last week, they couldn't tell me that for certain either.
Is the address going to be, if you're building a home on the larger parcel, I guess maybe I'll step back. Are you planning to do a CSM to combine these two parcels?
Yep.
Okay, so you're going to be turning these two into a single parcel?
That is the plan. They also won't allow us to do it if they're two different school districts.
Ah, okay, I see. A certified survey map, okay, sorry. It's a map. Okay.
Yep. So they won't allow, and that's not the major reason for it. I mean, we do want to get them into the same parcel, just it's less confusing, be easier someday if we ever do decide to sell it.
The address will come off of Dreamview Court, is that correct?
Yep, that's where our driveway comes out.
The driveway, I mean, okay.
Yep, it's already there. Yeah, so it's a Brooklyn address,
Okay,
if that answers your question at all.
okay. But you don't have to do a CSM, right, to be able to build on the larger one and have a driveway through
Nope.
the 2-acre?
They let us put the driveway in. That's correct. Yep, you don't have to change it.
Okay.
You don't have to.
All right,
Thank you.
But our mill rate would change if we do change it because the bigger parcel is A2, whereas the small one. So when that little cul-de-sac was built there, the original person that owned it, subdivided that all off. That little 2-acre piece, with the setbacks required in those subdivisions, you couldn't actually even build a house on that 2 acres. So that's another reason we'd like to get it changed. It's all one thing, and we would then it all be A2 instead of RR on just the small piece.
all right, I'm not sure what you all just talked about, but I'm happy that you're here, Anna, to have those conversations. Any other questions about the detachment? Go ahead, Mary.
So I want to take like 10 steps back, if that's all right.
No problem.
So I'm struggling a little bit with the map. I understand that the small 2-acre that we're talking about is this that's bounded by the town of Union.
That's right.
Right. But where is the other larger property, and where is the Evansville?
Okay, thank you.
A little bit better.
It's directly to the south of there.
I see.
Right here, so their driveway would come right off of here through the red square to here.
Right off. I'm sorry. Right off where?
So if I'm understanding you right, so this Dreamview, there's the cul-de-sac, and then
Yep.
there's Dreamview Court Road, and then your driveway goes through that squared, or the rectangle area.
Pretty
and
much
then
where the
that's-
V is in view is where the driveway goes through.
Oh, okay. And it goes into Dreamview Court.
Yep, the
Not the
driveway
other
goes
way
up
around.
through that 2-acre parcel and up onto the bigger parcel. Pretty much right into the middle of it, really. And, yeah, that's where the house
And this is the bigger parcel.
Yep.
The one
Okay.
just south is
Just
what you're
south.
pointing.
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Okay, that helps.
Mary,
Thank you.
Mary, other questions?
N-
Okay, go ahead, Heather.
This is more just clarification because there was a lot going on. So just to confirm, the land that you own that you're going to build on, where you will reside, is in the Evansville School District.
Correct.
So the kids that you have or will have live in that house, you're already there.
I believe so. So the bus drives down Holt Road or drives down Crocker Road and takes a right onto Holt Road, and then that whole Holt Road is Evansville. So I think so. I think they will go to Evansville, but it's also a question of if the bus will pick them up. You know, technically, since that's not Evansville, that little piece, I mean, will they give me a hassle about pulling into that cul-de-sac and turning around? I'm not sure they would. My friend's dad used to own the bus company down there. He passed away about a year and a half ago, and somebody else owns it now, so I wasn't real worried about it until that happened, but
Got it.
so yes.
So this is a question for Ms. Jonan. I'm wondering if this is something that the Oregon School Board has to act on at this point in time. Because he brought the petition to us, do we have to act, or is this something that can be tabled for future information? Also knowing that children are not impacted for this next school year because he currently lives in Evansville and doesn't plan to live on this property in question.
You have to act tonight for
Okay.
statutory deadlines.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, I'll give my thoughts. I don't support this position at this point in time because this is a piece of tax revenue for the Oregon School District and no children are impacted at this point in time. So that's my personal view on this, that it is income for the Oregon School District and we're not negatively impacting any children at this point in time. That this is something that could come before us again. Any
Yeah,
other discussion?
I think I agree with you, Chris. I mean, it's a little bit tough for me because it would make sense to detach this piece just based on this being kind of operating as one parcel. But I agree. I don't think I can support giving up tax dollars when no children are affected, at least under the current situation that as we know it. So.
Any other questions or clarifying? Or anybody want to state their point? Otherwise, I will turn it over to Dr. Bergstrom to talk about what are the decisions before us tonight.
Could I say one more thing quick?
Go ahead.
And I totally understand about the revenue. Our taxes on that piece of property this past year, and they're not going to change because we won't build on it, can't build on it. For $683 is what we paid Rock County. So I think you guys probably got about $150, somewhere around there. Just throwing it out there.
Understood. Okay, Dr. Bergstrom, go ahead.
Well, and just to add to that, if I'm understanding this correctly, is that if you were to build a house on that southern parcel, but if your address is that 17701 West Dreamview Court, then that would be in our school district. So if you did add a house and increase that property value, it would have future value to the district. So, but I want to make sure, I want to check my understanding with you, that since that would be your address, should you build, that house and property would be in the Oregon School District.
No, it'd be in Evansville's.
They would attach it, Evansville would claim it, even though that's your address?
Yep. We just talked to them last week, and
Okay.
I mean, they're obviously going to support making their district a little bit larger, but they did approve it. Yeah, so we're going to be paying, our taxes just went up because we built the shed out there. So they get the 95% of our tax revenue, 98%. You know, and yeah, that's really all I got to say, I guess.
Any other comments? Okay, I will turn it over to Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. And similar to how we discussed it last time, we have two options. The first would be to grant the request. This is option A. Grant the request for transfer of the territory as described in the petition. And this means that the territory would be detached from the Oregon School District and attached to the Evansville Community School District. The other option is B, and that is we deny the request for transfer, and that means that 17701 West Dreamview Court remains with the Oregon School District.
All right, thank you, Dr. Bergstrom. So I will entertain a motion from the floor, if anyone would like to make such motion.
I'll move motion number 2, which is to deny the transfer of territory described in the petition.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
All right, any further discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I also agree with fellow board members what you've said, but the other point I guess I'd like to bring up is that if we were to allow for that detachment or to not to move forward with allowing the detachment, it makes it a little bit, it opens up the door for potential additional detachments from our school district within that neighborhood, within around the cul-de-sac. And I think that's another factor that I'm taking into account, given that the property you plan to build on and have your home on still allows your children to attend Evansville schools. That's another reason why I'm not in support of the detachment at this time.
Any other discussion? Okay, hearing none. Katie, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
No.
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so now we will need to do a resolution associated with that motion. So I will entertain a motion to approve that resolution, or to entertain that resolution.
I'll make that.
All right, is there a second to that resolution? I'll second. Any discussion on the resolution? All right, hearing none, could you please call the roll, Katie?
Ms. Garrison? Yes. Ms. Wright?
Yes, but Caleb had a question.
Did I miss your,
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, so now this.
turn on your microphone, please.
So this resolution now is to basically just resolve, or I don't know what the.
It's to formalize the motion into
Okay,
a
so we're
resolution
just
that the board has
basically-
acted because we're talking about property.
Okay. So, okay. I think
Katie, could you please call the roll?
Ms. Bijak?
Yes.
Dr. Bush?
yes.
Dr. Lakuta?
Yes.
Mr. Pankratz?
Yes.
Ms. Flanagan?
Yes, motion carries 7-0. All right, thanks, everyone. And thanks, Ms. Jonan, for supplying the dialogue that I had to read tonight. Appreciate that. All right, moving on to D, action items. We don't have any action items tonight, so when we move into E, discussion items, the board did not meet in committee of the whole before this meeting, so we will resume those conversations before our March 11th board meeting. All right, moving on to F, information items, 2024-2025 staffing plan. So I will turn that over to Dr. Bergstrom and Ms. Jonan to walk us through that. Again, this is a preliminary staffing plan. This will come before us again on March 11th as an action item. So again, this is just discussion and presentation tonight and clarifying questions.
Thank you. Of course, Ms. Jonan, as the head of HR, is going to go over the majority of the report. I just wanted to point out that significant time was taken to ensure that none of our highest priority positions in Table A, that that cost did not exceed the revenue that we had coming in. This is a very high level picture for next year's budget. Of course, we'll be getting much more detail in the future. It's just a useful overview so that you understand that we are consistently taking in revenues versus expenditures before we consider what is important as far as positions go. And as you'll see from the packet, that we do use a prioritized guide for these decisions, along with Policy 175, Student-Centered Decision-Making, and Portrait of a Graduate. So this is a multi-step process that includes a lot of voice before it comes before you tonight, just as the initial passover.
All right, so with that, we'll be looking for the board's feedback tonight to bring a final recommendation to the board on March 11th. In essence, we, right now, our initial thinking is to ask the board to approve the positions in Table 3A. And so I will get to that table in a moment. Want to echo what Dr. Bergstrom said. We go through the criteria that you see in the purple as an administrative team. So there's many people in the room as we look to make this decision. I would also like to point out that we monitor enrollment very closely and look to see if there are places where we can be fiscally responsible to our taxpayers, but still keep the highest level of student achievement and needs. And so in looking at our sections, we have a bubble of students at our high school right now. With declining birth rates, we do have lower K-4 classes. However, we have significant construction happening in our district. So right now, we feel really comfortable that we can decrease 2 sections K-4 through attrition, and that still keep our class size within the class guidelines. And we also have 1 position at the middle school that we also can reallocate through attrition. However, we are monitoring that construction and our enrollment because we know that the class size guidelines are really important to us. So looking at how can we reallocate those 3 positions to best meet the needs of our students. So wanted to make sure that you saw that highlighted, and then you'll see in table 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can see that enrollment piece as that's going through the high school. So in terms of the budget summary, Mr. Weiland isn't here tonight, so I will do my best, but he, Dr. Bergstrom, and I have gone through these numbers, and again, just emphasize, he wanted me to emphasize, it's a big picture budget estimate. Obviously, everyone knows the complexity of our budget, so just wanted to point out more of the higher leverage revenues that we have. And of course, our most important one is our 2022 operational referendum. So next year we will be in the 3rd year of that, which is the final year of implementation, even though it's a recurring referendum. And again, I always want to take the opportunity to express gratitude to our community, because this would be a really, really difficult conversation if we hadn't had the community support for that referendum. So you'll see that as our main source of revenue, and you can see the other items there. We are getting increased revenue from the state for special education, which is really, really important because our number of students that have individual educational plans and need special education programming is greatly increasing, especially at our early childhood. And so you will see that reflected in our staffing requests. So we are getting some funding from the state for that. So if you will look at Table B, that is a list of our significant expenditures. And, you know, not surprisingly, 80% of our budget is staff, their compensation and their benefits. So you'll see those expenditures reflected in the first 2, with the asterisks that we do bargain the educator compensation schedule. So that is just an estimate. But these are placeholders right now in the budget. So you'll see we are planning for a 4.5% health insurance increase. That is the cap. We have a 4-year contract with GHC. We'll be in the 3rd year. So we're budgeting for that cap. Again, we hope we come under like we did last year, but we have to plan for the cap. And then you'll see, like everything else, our insurance costs are increasing in our commercial market. We have had a lot of discussions in committee of the whole regarding 4K, transportation, food service. So we have these as placeholders in the budget, but that is by no means a decision that's been made. It's just we had to make an estimate to see what allocation we may have left for staffing. You'll see from our estimations is that we have a little less than $400,000 to allocate for staffing plus the reallocation. So when we met as a team, our highest priority, and you see that in Table A, and that is in order of priority, is that we would like to add positions in special education. We have a legal obligation to meet students' needs if they're in the IEP, and our caseloads are increasing, and this is our best thinking as to how to meet those students' needs. So just to give you that example, in early childhood, we have 36 students who are coming to us already that have IEPs, and we have 2 case managers. So that would be 18 students for each of them to service at 7 different sites. So that is just something that isn't manageable, let alone students who would move in or have evaluations throughout the school year that would need services. So we're watching those numbers, and Candace is studying that pretty closely, Dr. Widensee. So we're recommending the board give approval to hire up to 2 case managers. If our numbers were to be such that we felt like, given their needs, that we could do it with 3, we would do that. But that is a very sought after license, and so better for us to hire early rather than later. So we're hoping to ask the board to approve that in March, and then we probably will know by April if we need to fill the 2nd position. So turning the page, I'm looking to add a special ed teacher at both Brooklyn and Forest Edge. At Brooklyn, again, our numbers are growing. Starting the year, we anticipate starting the year with 31 students. So that is a high number for 3 case managers, and it's only February right now. And then in Forest Edge, not only are our numbers growing, but they also have to support 7 different grade levels, with it being a K through 6 school. For special education, we could be adding up to 4 educators. And then looking at our other students' needs is we recommend maintaining that additional 0.5 of a school psychologist at the high school. Right now, Dr. Hansen is there, but part of her job is training other schools on the collaborative problem-solving approach, and that was grant funded for 1 year. That is this year. So just looking at the needs, that grant goes away, and the goal of her programming this year was to increase the capacity of people at the school so they could maintain that work. So what our recommendation is we would keep her at the high school full-time, and she would revert back to full-time school psych duties. And then just with growing student need and family need, we would recommend adding a school social worker for K-6. We currently have 2 social workers who serve students for K-6. So with those different sites, and again, our 7 community sites, that is a lot for 2 people to do. And so we recommend adding a position in that area. And then you'll see the theme here, also increasing our 4K director to full-time. Just given all of the needs in early childhood, that it's absolutely been a full-time job for the last few years. We've done a lot to try to make that work, but we feel like just with the needs of the kids coming in, and her having to give more support to the centers because they're having the same staffing challenges that we're having. And so I think it's just appropriate that we make that a full-time position. So if you'll notice, there's some positions that are in gray on that table, and there's other positions that are not in gray. So the positions that are in gray, we propose funding with recurring. Oh, you don't have gray? Oh, well, that makes me sad because I was really proud of that. But okay. So the positions I just mentioned were in gray. So those are the positions that we recommend funding with the recurring monies. And then we have 2 positions that we recommend funding next year with one-time money. So one is building substitutes, that we would look at adding a full-time building substitute at each of our 7 buildings. We are around an 80% fill rate for our substitutes for our educators, and we're at 60% for our paraprofessionals. So we are up from last year, so we're happy about that, but 80% is not 100. And it's very much a strain on not only our administrators, but also our teachers that have to cover for each other and then lose their prep time. And so we're really grateful that they are willing to do that. We would like to ask that less often. And so if you ask me, will one person at each building solve our problem? It won't, but it'll help. It'll help to have that consistent person there who knows the building, knows our students, and administrators know at 5:30 in the morning when they all start checking their text messages and their emails about who's sick that day, that they know they have at least one person that can fill those roles and go in different places. So what we would like to do is set aside some one-time money and hope that either we can make changes to the subpool. I think we've done a really good job of decreasing absences where we can, but I'll foreshadow our next board meeting that really I think we need to look at some changes to our calendar because we've really been really hit by illness this year, and some of the research shows that if we would have more breaks throughout the year that people could get healthy, and that might also decrease our absences because about 80% of our absences is family illness, personal illness, or FMLA. So there isn't a lot right now that we can do to prevent that. I think we've really managed our absences as best we can with what we can control. So hoping that building substitutes would be a short-term solution that we could fund with one-time money until we can maybe find some other solutions to address that. And then we also have our students are increasing who are coming to us that have a heritage language that is not English. And so particularly at high school where we do have newcomers coming to us, and if you look at our opportunity gaps, it's our students that have the largest gap. And so we know that we need to provide more support to those students. So we would like to hire a multilingual paraprofessional next year for 1 year with one-time money while we study what we could do on a longer term basis as a solution. So with all of that, if you look at our revenues minus our expenditures, with our reallocation and then taking the estimate of what we think all the positions will cost, that would leave us with about $13,000 should the board approve everything next month, and the estimates turn out the way that we project them to be. So should something change between now and then, or we have higher turnover savings, or we hire people at different places in the schedule than we anticipate, then you will see Table B. These are other positions that we talked about extensively at our meeting that are in alphabetical order, so not in priority order, but just things that have come up as we have been working through our staffing, as well as the Professional Sustainability Task Force. And so one thing I would point out too is you'll notice, similar to athletics, that we have, while we aren't growing significantly with our students, that our students are participating more and more in athletics and in music, which is wonderful, and that's what we want to see. So we're keeping close eyes on those, and we may have to find some short-term solution for those numbers as well. So with that, I will turn it back over to Dr. Bergstrom to see what else I missed or what you'd like to add.
That was wonderful. I just wanted to add a couple of reasons related to the building substitutes. I think that what was said related to the importance of adding people to relieve some of the stress that the administrators and the teachers experience when we don't have the coverage that we need. But I'll also say when teachers are covering for one another, they're not able to attend PLCs. And we have said many times over that PLC is the vehicle for responsive teaching and learning, and we really know that it does impact our students negatively when their teachers are subbing for one another and can't attend their subject area PLCs. And I also want to point out that the next meeting will be when we talk about some of the recommendations coming out of the task force. And you see some of that here already, right? You know the building subs were definitely something discussed at the task force level related to how to create professional sustainability, the whole purpose of the task force, in addition to one of our Table B positions, which is the retention and recruitment specialist. And we can talk more about that in March when we bring those recommendations to you.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to do tonight is everybody will get a chance to ask their questions. So we can start with just going around the horn and ask as many questions as you have when it's your turn. So who would like to start? Mary, you're giving me eye contact. Go ahead.
All righty, I can start. So I'm curious to know, what is the target ratio of special ed teachers to students?
So that's challenging to answer because we know that kids are not the same amount, they don't have the same amount of needs, right? And so in talking to Candace, I would say most Dane County districts average about 7 or 8 students per caseload. But some of our case managers have more, and some of, did I get that right?
Yes, at the elementary level.
At the elementary level, thank you. So, but we really do look at what are the needs of the student, and so some of our case managers have fewer students and some have more.
And so the positions here, because there are quite a few of them, we're talking what, 4 special ed teachers here on the list. Where does that put us in relation to that ratio that we were just talking about?
So I would have to go by position. And again, we don't know all of our students yet for next year, particularly at the elementary level. So if you look at Brooklyn, for example, we anticipate at least 31 students. So if we had 4, it would be 7 to 8 per case manager. So we're right within that range. So Forest Edge, we have 32 we expect to start the school year. So if we have 4, again, about in that range. But just with the note that we could have move-ins, we could have move-outs, things change throughout the year.
Sure, yeah.
Same thing. Quick question, the numbers, the 31 and 32, does that anticipate a certain number for kindergarten based on 4K? Or have we built that into these numbers? Okay, so this accounts for K through 4. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so I guess obviously the building subs, I mean, I know we've all talked about this, and this is a very positive thing for all of our staff. But I guess what troubles me, and I don't have a solution, but what troubles me is the positions that are relatively consistently in Table B, you know, the fact that one of those is a math teacher, and you know, the music, which I know is near and dear to my heart personally, but you know, those things get passed over every year, and I know it's the tyranny of the urgent, but I just wanted to say that does cause me angst.
I agree, Mr. Planner as well. And so, you know, we are watching the numbers, and also I'm hopeful before March 11th I'll have the GHC bid. And so if that comes in at 3.5, you know, that might be an extra $60,000 that we could have. Or if our interest revenue is more than we anticipate. So I don't want anyone to feel like Table B is out of the question, that, you know, we have them pointing out them to the board for a reason, and there may be something that we have to find one-term solutions if we have to make a decision before the school year starts, because having money in October isn't always helpful, right? Once we go through the budget process. So there's a lot of variables. I'm also hoping, you know, so we may solidify a few more retirements. That'll give me a better sense of turnover savings, because we do give an early incentive notification by March 1st for people to let us know for that very reason. So this is an ever-changing estimate, so that recommendation may look different on March 11th, or we might have to find one-time solutions, but we just wanted the board to know within the money we have what were the highest priority, but Table B is still a priority.
Okay. And I think my last question is, I have 2 more, sorry. The recruitment and retention specialist, which sounds very appealing, is it at all feasible that for example, a halftime might be able to serve that role efficiently?
Potentially, yes.
Okay.
I would say most people now who work part-time want to work 2 or 3 days a week as opposed to every day for a few hours a day. And so just in thinking about our needs in that area, full-time would be better from my lens. But yes, part-time, I think anything we can do to really target our recruitment efforts and focus on staff wellness as a district would be very, very helpful.
Okay, all right.
And other districts are having much success with that position as well.
Okay. And then my last question, the school social worker, that is 1 FTE across 7, no, actually, I don't even know how many sites. I'm curious, how do you envision that position being broken out across sites? Because I know that's been a kind of a constant theme of each of these, that, you know, having to service so many sites is a challenge.
So I know that there are plans in place. So right now we have 2 that do 4K6. So we would add a 3rd. So I believe one of them would have 2 buildings, one would have 2 buildings, and then one would have 4K and 1 other building.
Okay, thank you.
All right, go ahead, Heather.
I'm just going to take a quick second to echo Ms. Jonan's thank you to the community, because this is really incredible that we have the opportunity to do this, and the picture would be very bleak if we didn't. I want to switch from a positive to just pointing out, I'm like a broken record with this, but when I look at the special education numbers, when you add up, 160,000 and 85,000 and 85,000, if my math is correct, that gives me 330,000. And I just always want to make a point that we are not fully funded from the state on that special education, so that $330,000 is coming out of our general funds, which is absolutely what we need to do and should do, but it's a travesty that we are using that money that we could be using on these other priorities to do that. So now that I've said my two opinions, I have just two questions. Ms. Jonan, can you help me understand when we're looking at a 0.88 position, is that somebody that we are already pulling from that we're going to increase, or, it makes sense like half FTE, or just help me understand some of these like fractional employees.
Sure. So for our paraprofessionals at the high school are largely 0.88 because they're here during the student day.
Got it. Thanks. Okay. And then on the flip side of what Mary's question was on this recruitment and retention specialist, if they were to be full-time as you have it, I totally understand that recruitment and retention is a huge job. Are there other HR type roles or, support that they could provide that, would also help just what we currently have on our plate, your plate?
Yes, so in talking to the department, really what our vision is for the position in terms of the greatest needs would be the recruitment, specifically paraprofessionals and substitutes, because that is getting more difficult and more time intensive. I mean, also, of course, educators, but recruitment of paraprofessionals has become a year-round process, and we haven't filled all of our positions in special education. And so really would want someone to focus on recruitment throughout the school year, and then as well as onboarding, because we've had a few occasions, too many from our lens, of that we've hired people and then they've quit 3 or 4 days into the job. And so really feeling if we had a more substantial onboarding throughout the year, that people would feel more comfortable with that position, right? And substitutes as well, because we found the best way to keep our subs is when the buildings, they attach to one building and they feel comfortable and feel welcome, which is, I think, why building subs have been really successful. And then we do so much with just day-to-day hiring of posting positions, contacting people who did or didn't get a job, onboarding people throughout the year. And then really one of my goals has been to have a comprehensive vision for staff wellness, to really look at all of our data. We know that just like students and adults, that needs in anxiety and depression are growing. And there's many ways that we know to address that. It's just having a person dedicated to that. And other districts have moved the needle. Middleton has someone, Verona has someone, Monona Grove is seeking to hire someone, that it isn't just, okay, let's have our mental health day or here's a mindfulness app, right? To really embed that throughout the work that we do. And so I really think if we do it properly, it's a full-time job. I think a part-time job would be better than not having anyone in that role. We planned for that role when we built Forest Edge. We just had to divert the funding to other needs. And so, yes, and then just those bread and butter HR things every day, if there was time left for that, would be wonderful to free up time to do the other long-term projects that we have.
Okay, thanks. And then my last thing is I'm excited to hear about the professional sustainability task force. I completely see where some of these things are already showing up, but I think that will help give this a fuller picture and an understanding about what is important. I'm sure you've all taken that into consideration, but it will just help bring us along on the journey as well.
All right, let's finish up this side of the room. Troy, floor is yours.
All right, so first I just want to say how much I appreciate how this is laid out, and coming as an informational item before next month is really helpful. And I really appreciate Table A and Table B being kind of that wish list section. And, really for me, I don't feel like there's any surprises here in Table A because we have been hearing about these needs for a long time throughout the year. So I just kudos to the team for keeping us informed along the way and laying this out so clearly. My only question is really around the building subs and the multilingual paraprofessional at OHS. I'm wondering, would those be just one-year contracts, or would we look at those as permanent positions?
So with building subs, we don't do contracts. So just with all of our subs, it's a hire that we do. So there isn't a contract, but we would tell people that we know that it's been approved for 1 year, and most of our subs understand that. And so our paraprofessionals, similarly, that we don't have contracts for our paraprofessionals. We're hoping to hire someone who's bilingual. If we hire someone who's bilingual, if we move to a different type of support the next year, I know that we will have a place for that person. We always have open positions, especially for people that are bilingual or multilingual. So we wouldn't hire like a substitute for that position. We would tell the person they have permanent employment, but for the multilingual para, but if that position went away, I know that we could absorb that person somewhere else.
And same for the building subs, I would assume, right? Like through attrition, like the following year, they would, if they were a good performer, they would have a place. If we weren't able to continue funding those 7 positions. Potentially,
we did hire 2 of our building subs for this school year when those positions went away this school year. So one we hired as a regular classroom teacher, and one we hired as a paraprofessional.
Okay, that's all I had. Thanks.
Leslie, you're up.
So on the building subs, so we didn't do it this year. Last year, going back one, we tried to, but we weren't able to fill them. Is that correct? I'm trying to remember.
We've been able to fill our building subs. It's just that when we went to referendum, they weren't included. Remember, we had the 3 tiers of the referendum, and so we decided not to do the highest tier, hoping that the labor market would help us. And so now, just looking at the strain on our system of not having them, it's something that we would like to go back to on a short-term basis, with hopes that we can employ some different longer-term strategies, whether that be a different calendar, different labor market. So it's a good thing that our unemployment is really low, but that also means that our substitute pools are lower.
And I guess that's kind of where I was trying to go with that was, do we see being able to hire 7 building subs? There's enough people in the market that are looking for that?
We haven't had a problem in the few years that we've tried to staff them, so I'm hopeful that we won't have an issue. Okay. Because one of the things with building subs is that we do offer a higher pay rate, and we do offer health insurance.
Okay, perfect.
By law.
Okay, and then I just wanted to state that I really kind of support the recruitment and retention specialist, because I really feel like that would make a huge difference in the hiring of paraprofessionals and keeping everyone on board, like you've asked, to keep us running smoothly, and be able to alleviate some of the stress at that level. So.
Caleb, you're up.
Okay, so I have a clarifying question first. Since this is my first time doing this as a relatively new school board member, still in my first year. The estimated costs for the positions, I'm assuming, given the number, that includes salary and benefits. Is that correct?
It does. So we estimate a single plan for everyone, and that tends to work out because some people don't take the insurance at all, and some people take a family plan. And so yes, it would include WRS, it would include Social Security, and then it would include single benefits.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that I understood that, because it also highlights what a significant investment positions are. So I had another question, which is a bit more of a meaty question. I think you said with the special education teachers in early childhood that there's a 1 to 2 FTE estimate, and that you'll know at some point whether it'll be 1 or 2. My question is, if it turns out to be 1, maybe not, but if it does, that's $80,000, right? Do we have any idea, if we have that $80,000, if there's something in Table B, even though they're in alphabetical order, is there something in Table B? I think we've talked about music and we talked about math. Are there positions in Table B that would be maybe seen as a priority with that $80,000 or any other money at this time?
So I would say stay tuned for that for March 11th, because we'll talk about that as a team tomorrow, because we wanted to get your feedback tonight and then we meet again in the morning. So I anticipate us having to hire 2 case managers for early childhood, but we will do that prioritization tomorrow because we wanted to get your feedback as a board first.
Okay, thank you. And then one last question, and I think you've sort of answered it already, but it concerns the building substitutes. One of the things it says in the description is pay and benefits continue to be a barrier to recruitment. And you mentioned that building substitutes get hired and are given a contract in insurance, right? Is that what you said?
They are given
Something
a
to that
higher
effect.
pay rate, but they're not given a contract. But anyone who works 130 hours or more a month has to be offered health insurance under the Affordable Care Act. And so those positions would work those hours or more.
Because my question was, if the $300,000, does it do anything to address pay? Would it just be coming from the fact that they would be guaranteed more hours as kind of an incentive?
Yeah, so they do. So our subs right now make $20 an hour. And so when we had building subs, they were at $25 an hour. But when we looked at our overall budget, we wouldn't be able to increase $25 an hour for all of our subs without cutting from somewhere else. So what we found is that when we do have the guarantee of 40 hours a week in one building at $25 an hour plus health insurance plus WRS contribution, if they qualify, and some of our building subs would because they've worked for us for more than a year, those positions become more attractive, but they also become much more costly than our other substitutes. So we've done, but what we've also done is we haven't seen a huge increase in fill rates we used to be $18 an hour, then we went to 19, then we went to 20. And we haven't seen a huge increase in our fill rates. So if you said we'll go to 21 or 22, I'm not sure that will move the needle even if we could afford it. And that has been our feedback from other districts as well, that you have to make the package much more robust for people to be interested.
Okay, yeah, thank you. That's all I had.
Anna, your turn.
Okay, really awesome questions from the board. So good job. Okay, I have a quick question about the health insurance increase. So we're assuming what you're showing is a conservative approach with the cap. Can you tell me, is the potential to get less, to be charged less based on like claims and how we did over the year? And so last year, it sounds like we did not come in at the cap, we were below. And so there's a potential of that. And when was the magic date that you knew that?
So we have a 4-year agreement, just to refresh everyone's memory, at a 4.5% cap each year. So last year we came in at 3.5%. So we were in the same position. So that was pretty exciting. I would say, so you look at, I always look at the experience level. So if you're, to make things easy, if you're at 100% experience level, then that means the insurance company has estimated that they've paid out in claims the same that they've taken in for premium. So last year we were about 86, which was great because it meant we had much fewer claims. We had a healthier population, right? So this year we're trending more 96 to 102. So I am anticipating we will be at 4.5%, but that also was in December. And so December, our claims tend to increase and then they fall off because a lot of people go to their doctors during winter break. And so I'm hoping that our third quarter numbers will look better and that we've done a lot of focus on prevention. And so that isn't necessarily, you don't necessarily get your return on investment your first year in prevention, right? It takes several years. So I'm optimistic, but I think from a practical lens, if I had to decide right now, looking at our experience, we'll be at 4.5. And other districts were at 8 to 18%. So I really feel fortunate we have the contract that we do. And
are we
Go
We're
ahead.
going into our last year of that then, or no?
This will
we
be
have
our
2 more?
This is our second year, so next year that affects the staffing report will be year 3. And then we've got one more year.
One more year on that contract.
Yes.
Okay. And when do we get the information about what that will be?
Well, we're supposed to get it March 18th, but I have asked for us to get it earlier. So
Okay.
I'm hopeful that we'll have it by March 8th. So
Okay.
at least we'll know before the March 11th board meeting. So GHC is working on that now. But that is, and I do understand that that's hard for them because we won't be done with third quarter yet.
Sure. Okay. Okay. I have a couple, I guess another question related to something Mary asked about with the math teacher position. I'm wondering how this plays out with the class sizes. You know, are some students not having the opportunity to take these classes? Are we just making exceptions to the number of kids in the classroom, that all kids have the opportunity, but now we're just having a higher ratio of students in the classroom? Can you help me understand that, how that's working right now?
Yes, so I know the high school they're working on class size numbers. We received preliminary numbers this morning, so you will have that in the next board packet. And the middle school just went out, and so that does impact too how many 8th grade referrals we get for algebra and algebra support in 9th grade. So I will have those numbers for you in March.
Okay.
But yes, traditionally that's what we have looked at. And so no student is turned away for math. It's just, what do the class sizes look like? Do teachers teach 6 classes instead of 5? Do teachers go on and overload? Employing some of those strategies.
Okay.
So I'll have more information for you in a week or so.
Okay. Okay. And then just the other one observation, I guess I'll call it, with the multilingual paraprofessional. Is there a candidate pool for that multilingual, especially at this pay scale? That's my concern with this one, is just we're asking for somebody who's definitely has something they can bring to our district, and I just want to I guess I'm concerned about what we're able to pay for that role.
Yeah, so I hope so. We do pay. So if someone is bilingual, they are at the top of our para pay scale. And that's something we moved to a couple years ago, and we have increased our numbers of people that are bilingual, and that has definitely helped. So I hope so. I think long term, I know one of Mr. Planner's goals with his team is to really look at having concrete programming of how we welcome people to our school, particularly people from other countries, and what that onboarding and programming looks like. And so that work just takes time and planning. So definitely concerned always when we're looking for bilingual, because that is a very exploding number from other districts, right, of people who want that staff. But we have increased our numbers, so I'm optimistic with that. If we're not able to fill it, we will have to look at doing something different.
Okay. And then I have just one more question, and that is regarding the vocal music teacher for OMS. Are we in a situation where the vocal music teacher is being shared between RCI and OMS at this point? And what is that a full-time music teacher or a part-time music teacher?
So right now, what's part of our challenge is we have 3 teachers that share. So we have the middle school teacher also shares with RCI, but then we have RCI and Forest Edge who share. So we did look at that even if we were to make the music teacher full-time at the middle school, it doesn't really help Forest Edge or RCI's schedule because they share. And so the numbers really don't justify, nor can our budget support having one teacher in each of those buildings, right? Unless we reduce contracts for teachers, and we don't want to do that. So the other thing for vocal music is that would have give small group lessons and have pull out, so it wouldn't be an additional class on a student's schedule. So it doesn't necessarily help with, like, we have students in study hall at the middle school that we're really trying to engage and be in different classes. So that's one where it doesn't help that aspect, right, of kids getting pulled out of class to do the small group in vocal, although completely understand the need for that as well for those kids who are passionate about choir, just like the kids who are passionate about band and orchestra, right? So in an ideal world, we would have all of that and we wouldn't share staff with any building. That would really help our schedule.
Right.
We just haven't, with our other needs, we just haven't been able to have that as a higher priority, but that's certainly a decision the board can make.
Okay. Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, everybody. Really good questions. I guess I just have a couple comments. One is, in response to Heather's comment about special ed. I did have a meeting with Jenna Jacobson, who is our assembly person, and she really wants data from the Oregon School District about special ed. I think there's some opportunities in the legislature, given recent decisions, that there may be some changing opinions. And so I think it behooves us as school board members to be talking with our legislatures directly about facts and figures. And this really gives us some good information. We know that we've had a $6 million direct transfer from general fund to special ed, and now we're looking at adding more positions because the need is there. These are facts and figures that we can provide to people that are making decisions about these things. So, I would encourage all of us to have those conversations, and that we may want to look in the future as the board doing something more specific about that related to special ed, because it's pretty clear. So that's one. Two, I'm kind of speaking to the board. I know we want to spend a lot of time talking about highest priority positions, but I would ask you all to tie the conversations that we're having in committee of the whole with the staffing positions we're having. So when we talk about things that are $20,000 and $30,000, we're having conversations in committee of the whole about revenue ideas. We're having conversations about changing things that would lower expenses. So don't separate these conversations. These are all big conversations. So look at this all holistically when we're building the budget. It's not just staffing over here and committee of the whole conversations over here. So as we have the meeting on March 11th, both committee of the whole and this discussion tie those things together. That we've got some opportunities that are little things that can make big differences in music, right? Or subs, or those things can add up. And I know it's one-time funds versus recurring, but those are, like we said before the meeting a little bit, that, one-time funds are turning into a recurring source of revenue for school districts, right? So let's think holistically and let's make long-term decisions that help the students and the staff of this school district. So let's not just look at it as this year's budget. We can build some things into the future. Go ahead.
I just want to follow up on that, Krista, because I've been thinking the same thing as we're looking at this information. And I think some of that is captured in Table B, is it not? Okay, so I guess I want to make sure that, because I was kind of going through looking at each of these and saying, okay, yep, I remember talking about this, I remember talking about this. So I guess I'm also wanting to make sure that we have some of that reflected in here of what we know we need. And I know we've got other ideas of ways to reduce cost and look at some other scenarios, and that might inform the work that we need to do going forward to find those. So, yeah.
Correct. So just look at this all holistically based on the conversations. And it may not have impact 24, 25, but setting the stage for future years. So let's just look at this holistically. I know that's what the admin team is doing, but the board needs to do that as well. So it's just a statement that I know a lot of you are thinking that way, but let's be deliberate about thinking that way. So, okay. I will turn it over to Dr. Bergstrom for any final words on us and our discussion about the staffing plan. But again, thank you guys. It's a lot of work, and it's really, we are lucky to have this opportunity to have these kinds of discussions, which many other school districts are not. So, Dr. Bergstrom.
Absolutely. I want to echo what you said about making sure we're looking at every one of these financial decisions in a holistic way. And I also just want to put in a plug for our team. I really think that Gina and her department, working in collaboration with Andy and John and Candace and Shannon and Darcy, everybody's working together. And the prioritization you see, that's done by our 27-person administrative team, and they prioritize things that aren't related to their buildings because they're stepping back and looking at the needs of the students in the district as a whole and talking about what's most important based on our criteria and our policies. And I just really am appreciative of the fact that we have a team that's able to do that and present you this good information.
All right, thank you. Okay, moving on to F, information items number 2, which is visioning and strategic planning. So back to Dr. Bergstrom.
Thank you. A lot of what we've been talking about this evening is really related to our strategic plan, how we make decisions, and in what context and for what purpose. And so the idea of the staffing decision was really made with Portrait of a Graduate in mind and Policy 175, which is the decision-making framework. So really all the things in this graphic are integrated into what you heard about this evening, as well as the priorities and our goals. The one thing for the teaching and learning update that I really want to call to your attention is Sun Prairie is hosting a movie screening, and it's called The Right to Read. And we are working with Sun Prairie. We appreciate that they're doing this, and they've invited us to invite our families also. And so this is 2 dates in Sun Prairie, and there's a QR code. You'll be able to get more information about this, I believe, on the website also. 2-part film, the people would view together and have a conversation. And then the superintendent's report, which I really think that our students tonight did an excellent job of foreshadowing. So I'll probably just skip over some of the things they did a really good job with already, but we do have some great pictures, so I'll be sure to include that. Last week was our Crossing Guard Appreciation Week, and it is always a delight to go out and to be able to personally thank the wonderful crossing guards that we have. For many of our kids, this is their first school person of the day that they interact with. And I was speaking with 2 of them who said that they pay attention to who crosses the street and who doesn't, and they check in with one another if they haven't seen so-and-so, and they really know their children, and I just think that is wonderful, and we're so lucky to have them. Student Services, they had a great professional development session that I had mentioned to the board last week too, where not only did they do some of their own learning, but they also did a tour of the Oregon Area Food Pantry, because many of them are working with families to ensure access to resources, so they needed a better understanding of what that looked like for families. And it was, if any of you have been there, you'll know it's very, very impressive. It's something that has a lot of dignity and integrity, and is a great experience for the people who need the services. And then another thing related to staff, and this is just a fun little thing, but our OMS administrator, Betsy Delzer, has been hosting after-school events for staff. One was a yoga class, and now this is a flower arrangement workshop. And it's just a really nice way for people to gather and learn something new at the end of the school day. Our Brooklyn kindergartners, you know how fun it is when they celebrate 100 days of school. All kinds of different ways to count to 100. And then you have this terrific Prairie View music project where they're incorporating many of their standards for creation, responding, and performing all within this one particular task, where they also have to use teamwork and collaboration. So thanks to Ms. Scheller and Ms. Weeman at Forest Edge for their collaboration on this new activity. And Brooklyn had their Dinner and a Book, which is always a fun event. So community members with a variety of professions were guest readers. I think Ms. Bijak, you were a guest reader, were you not? And also many thanks to donors, because each of the students were able to select a book to take home. So it's a very fun evening, and I know Forest Edge has something similar planned that's coming up too. And Netherwood did this appreciation circle webs. I thought this was the sweetest idea. So this is Miss Anderson's 4th grade class at Netherwood, and they have an appreciation circle during morning meeting. And the objective is to spend time sharing genuine appreciation for one another, to build gratitude and community. And the string passes from each student in the class to the person that they're appreciating to create a web showing them how connected we all are. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. And our Brooklyn 2nd graders learned about maple syrup. So thanks to the Anderson Park Friends for hosting us. What a great example of strong community partnerships. And Rome Corners did their celebration of a love of books in February. You see all these heart bookmarks. And I just love seeing students in the 5th and 6th grade continuing to read for recreation because that's so important. Then we had a young middle schooler who, as part of his English interviewing project, and that was the subject of one of our podcasts actually, he interviewed UW Whitewater men's basketball player Carter Capstron as part of his class project. And so that was a great way for a middle school student to make a connection to something that was important to him and to write about it. And congratulations to Milo Burns. He is the Bach double competition winner. He's an 8th grade violinist, and this competition is open annually to all violinists in 8th grade and younger, and they perform either part 1 or part 2 of the first movement of J.S. Bach's double concerto in D minor. Whew. He will be performing, listen to this, at the Milwaukee Symphony Orchestra on Wednesday, April 10th as a second violin. We're so proud of you, Milo. And OMS students, half of the 7th grade was at Upham Woods. This was an absolutely fun day, trying to hide your food in case bears come, dog sledding. I mean, the whole thing, it's an absolute blast. The kids really love it, and boy, did we have reasonable weather. So this is also a subject of our upcoming podcast, kids reflecting on their camp or their Upham Woods experience. And one gave very practical advice: listen to your teachers and wear the right clothing. Very good advice. And more hands-on learning from our ag students. Miss Beatty's horse and animal science class are hosting some very special guests this month. These precious goats are 1 month old, and they will be with the class through the end of February. And this is a really great hands-on learning experience. They study animal organ systems, external anatomy, reproduction, nutrition, and more. So many thanks to Ms. Beatty for always going above and beyond the call of duty to create relevant and empowering experiences. Look at those. They are cute. And then our high school students attended a science conference, the 2024 Fritz Wenzel Science Conference at the Laird Center for Medical Research in Marshfield. Lectures, demonstrations, workshops, tours. Congratulations to all of them to take advantage of something that would show them all these potential career options. That's great. And congratulations to our Oregon High School swimmer, Spencer Slicka, who took second place in the 50 freestyle and third in the 100 freestyle in the WIA Division I state meet on Saturday. That is really incredible. So congratulations to the whole team, but Spencer, we love watching you swim. And our hockey season, they had a really, really great season, our hockey team did. I know that there were lots of disappointed hockey fans and players on Saturday when they didn't win their game against St. Mary's, but they had an amazing season, and it was a lot of fun to watch them play. They ended the season as the sectional runner-up, and they should be very proud of that. And then our wrestlers competed at state. We heard about that from our students today. Cade Aberg, 3rd place. And they shared information I didn't know. The first state level winner from Oregon since 2013. That's amazing. And we have a wonderfully strong wrestling program, but that says a lot about Cade. And then congrats to our cheer team. They performed very well in the midst of some very competitive divisions this past Saturday at the Wisconsin Association of Cheer and Pom Coaches Championships in Appleton. The dance team, cheer dance, took 3rd place, and the game day took 4th place. So we're proud of your dedication and determination. That's really awesome. Girls basketball regional championships of an absolute nail-biter of a game on Saturday night. That was so much fun to watch. And congratulations to Elliot Lesperance, Madison Symphony Orchestra Bulls Young Artist Competition winner. And he's a part of this, but he's reflecting on how much this opportunity helped him be less nervous when performing in front of, because he's had to perform over 100 times. So this will happen on March 6th, the final competition, and will be be rebroadcast on March 8th and March 9th. So good for him. Skills USA, look at these great young people. They are going to be at the board meeting next month to share with you their experiences competing at the regional competition in Kenosha. We have a gold winner, a silver winner, a bronze, and then some finishers for the team engineering challenge. And then our Skills USA president, Morgan Spindler, was asked to lead the opening and closing ceremony. So our students really did a fantastic job, and I'm excited for them to come and tell you more about it at the next meeting. And also thanks to Mr. Stace and Mr. Hawkinson. All of these things, they tend to take place on the weekends. And our teachers spend their time doing this and making these great opportunities for our kids. Big Fish, was this ever an amazing performance? Many amazing performances. This was a really, really fun event. And you know, one of the things I thought was really cool is we rented a projection machine so that all the backgrounds were digital. And it moved throughout the performance depending on what they needed the background to be. It's just a lot of fun to watch our Oregon kids perform because they are so darn talented. And I took some of my younger family members too, and they were just as fascinated by what was happening in the pit because they are all trying out instruments in their first couple of years. And so when they were in and they were able to go in and look down and see what people were doing in the pit too, that meant a lot to them. So I encourage people to bring younger people when the show is suited for them, because I think it gives them something to aspire to. And then our latest podcast is on the our Big Fish performance that was released last week, and I think Upham Woods is coming up this week.
It's always one of my favorite things of this board meeting. It's just seeing how our kids and our educators and their families are doing just amazing things. It's really, I'm really happy that you guys do this every meeting because I know it's a lot of work, Erica and Leslie, but it's really a fun thing to see just the portrait of a graduate at work. So thank you. All right, moving to G, closing future agenda. I think we talked about tonight. Our next meeting is March 11th. We'll have a committee of the whole, and then we'll work to approve the staffing plan. So hang on to your materials from tonight, do some work on them, and then we'll be ready to have some pretty robust discussions on March 11th. All right, moving on to checkout. We'll go around the horn. We'll start this side this time. Leslie, anything for checkout?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that for our wrestling team, Cade, in addition to breaking the 10-year drought of no Oregon placers, he is the first freshman ever to place at state from Oregon.
Wow, that's awesome. That's another cool factoid. Caleb, anything?
No, nothing.
Anna.
Yes, I just want to give a huge shout out to the directors of the OHS musical. The joy that this performance brings to the kids who are involved and the community at large is just amazing. And it wouldn't happen if we didn't have the dedicated people that are willing to put the time in to provide this opportunity to our kids. So I really want to make a special thank you to Mike Doucette, the director, Jennifer Yancey, one of the directors, and the choral director, Michelle Kabish, who's directing that pit down in the pit, Marcia Hoyer, who's involved with the choreography and is doing wonderful, wonderful things with our group, and then of course Nate Mendel for all of the work that he does in our PAC to make it just the most phenomenal place to see a show. It was truly phenomenal, and it wouldn't be possible without these amazing individuals. So just wanted to do a shout out.
Thanks, Anna. All right, Mary.
Nothing for me.
Heather. Troy.
Yeah, I apologize. I wanted to make a statement earlier on the consent calendar. We approved some scholarships tonight, and I'm so thankful for all of the donations that we get each month, and the scholarship. We have many great scholarships, but this month I noticed the new one from Brothers HVAC, the Blue Collar Dollars, and I just wanted to put some light on that because what a great scholarship, and I'm so proud of this community that we live in. That there's a company, Oregon High School Graduate, that is paying it forward for those students who sometimes kind of get they don't get as many opportunities as some of the 4-year those students who are going for the 4-year degrees. So what a great just what a great thing. And I'm just, as I said, I'm so proud of this community that we live in and so grateful for these great opportunities. So just wanted to say that.
Great, thanks. I have two things. I went to the Oregon Public Library today, and I live close to there, and every day I drive by, there are so many people in the parking lot, and I think they're using the path or using the library. And as we saw in the presentation, the superintendent report, all the things that we're doing about reading. And I know you're on the library board, but I think checkouts and traffic at the library is way up, and so it's just. This is what a community can be. Reading is very fundamental. And the school, we are doing lots of different things to get kids interested in reading and things that they're interested in. Now we've got a public library that their families can go to and work with them on that. So I think it's just another really good thing about our community. And the last thing I wanted to say is I just wanted to do an official welcome to Dr. Joe Gothard, who was announced today as the new superintendent of the Madison Metropolitan School District. The board is meeting tonight to formalize that. Welcome him back. I know he's a good friend with some of our educators here, but that is a really, really positive thing for Madison, which is a really, really positive thing for Oregon and Dane County. We are invested in the success of the Madison Metropolitan School District, so we are super excited about him coming back. He's the National Superintendent of the Year from St. Paul and got that award, so I think it's just wonderful for him to be here, and we officially welcome and look forward to working with him. So, all right, we will now take a couple-minute recess, and then we will go into closed session. Thanks, everybody.